October 28, 1968, 300 a.m. NBC Studios, Burbank. The Tonight Show had just ended. The audience had left. The cameras had stopped rolling. Johnny Carson had gone to his dressing room, but Dean Martin and Bruce Lee were still there. In the green room, door closed, no cameras, no crew of them. Bruce the Two asked Dean a question, one question. 7 words. Quiet enough that even the people standing outside the door couldn't hear it clearly. Dean's answer took less than 30 seconds, but those 30 seconds would change how Bruce Lee thought about martial arts for the rest of his life. For 47 years, only 2 people knew what was said in that room. Bruce Lee died in 1973 without ever publicly revealing the conversation. Dean Martin died in 1995, also silent about that night. The truth only came out in 2015, when an NBC audio technician found a backstage recording that shouldn't have existed. The hallway outside the green room was quiet. Most of the crew had already left. 3 in the morning. The graveyard shift cleaning crew hadn't arrived yet, that dead hour when NBC Studios felt abandoned, empty. A few stragglers remained. Stage managers finishing paperwork, camera operators packing equipment. The usual post-show routine. Nobody paid much attention to the closed green room door. Celebrities talk backstage all the time. Private conversations, industry gossip, deal-making. Nothing unusual, but this was different. A production assistant named Sarah Chen walked past the door around 307 m. She was heading to the parking lot, ready to go home, get some sleep. She heard voices, muffled, indistinct. She paused, not to eavesdrop. Just noticed something about the tone, serious, intense. Not the usual post-show banter, not jokes or small talks. She kept walking, didn't think much of it. Inside the green room, Dean Martin stood by the window. The Burbank lights spread out below. Sparse at this hour, most of Los Angeles asleep. Bruce Lee sat in one of the chairs. The leather creaked slightly when he shifted his weight. Neither man had spoken yet, not since they'd entered the room. The on-stage tension was still there, still hanging in the air between them, still unresolved. Dean loosened his bow tie, pulled it off completely, tossed it on the table. His jacket came off next. Draped over a chair, he looked tired. The performance was over, the mask was coming off. Bruce watched him, patient still, waiting. Dean turned from the window, looked at Bruce directly. "You want a drink?" Bruce shook his head. "No, thank you." Dean poured himself one anyway. Whiskey. Neat. The bottle had been left on the side table. NBC always kept the green room stocked for guests. Dean took a sip, then another. The silence stretched. Bruce broke it first. Not with the question. Not yet. With something else. "I apologize if I made you uncomfortable on stage." Dean looked at him, surprised. "You didn't. Your reaction suggested otherwise." Dean smiled, just slightly. "My reaction was about something else, not about Ip Man." "Yeah, Ip Man." Bruce nodded, understanding they'd covered this already. On stage, in front of millions, the message from Bruce's teacher, the acknowledgement, the respect. But there was more. Both men knew it. Something unfinished. Something that needed to be said without cameras, without audience, without performance. Dean sat down across from Bruce. The chair groaned under his weight. He was still holding the drink, still processing, still deciding how much to say, how much to reveal. Bruce leaned forward slightly, his posture relaxed but focused, every movement deliberate, controlled, like everything Bruce did. Then he asked the question. 7 words, quiet, direct, simple. But it changed everything. Nobody knew what was said in that room. Not at first. Not for years. The theories started immediately. By the next morning, people were already speculating. What did Dean Martin and Bruce Lee talk about after the show? The crew members who'd seen them enter the green room. The production assistant who'd heard voices. The security guard who'd watched them leave 20 minutes later. Everyone had a theory. Theory 1: Bruce challenged Dean to a fight. This was the most popular theory. It made sense. The on-stage tension, the staring, the silence. People assumed it continued backstage. That Bruce, being Bruce, wanted to settle it physically, wanted to prove something, show Dean what real strength looked like. A cameraman told people at a bar 2 days later, "I bet Bruce challenged him. You saw how Dean looked on stage. That wasn't fear, but it was something." Bruce probably said, "Let's settle this like men." The story spread, got embellished. By the end of the week, people were saying Dean refused the challenge, that he backed down, that Bruce had intimidated the king of cool. Theory 2, they argued about the on-stage tension. This theory was more diplomatic, less dramatic. People who knew both men said they probably talked it out, cleared the air, resolved whatever misunderstanding had happened on camera. A Tonight Show producer told Variety, "These are professionals. They probably just wanted to make sure there were no hard feelings. Hollywood runs on relationships. You don't let something like that fester." Theory 3, Dean apologized for being cold. Some people thought Dean had been rude, that his silence on stage had been disrespectful, that he'd embarrassed Bruce on national television. That backstage, Dean apologized, made it right, explained himself. This theory was popular among Bruce's fans, people who wanted to believe their hero had gotten the respect he deserved. Theory 4, Bruce threatened Dean. Darker theory, less popular but persistent. Some people believed Bruce had warned Dean, told him not to disrespect him again, told him to watch himself, made it clear that he wasn't someone to mess with. A martial arts instructor in Los Angeles told his students, "Bruce Lee doesn't back down. If Dean disrespected him, Bruce would have let him know, politely, but firmly." Theory 5, they became best friends. The optimistic theory. People wanted a happy ending, wanted to believe that two legends had found common ground, that they'd bonded, that they'd recognized something in each other, that they'd walked out of that room as friends. A gossip columnist wrote, "Wouldn't it be wonderful if Den Martin and Bruce Lee became close friends? Two completely different worlds colliding and finding harmony." Theory 6, it was about Ip Man. This theory built on what happened on stage. People who'd caught the reference to Ip Man assumed the conversation continued, that Bruce told Dean more about his teacher, that they discussed philosophy, that it was a meeting of minds. A film student in 1975 wrote a paper theorizing the green room conversation was likely a continuation of the Ip Man acknowledgement. Don Martin had met Bruce Lee's teacher. This connection would naturally lead to deeper discussion about martial arts philosophy and performance philosophy. Theory 7, Bruce asked for acting advice. Practical theory. Bruce was trying to build an acting career. The Green Hornet was his big break. Dean was a massive star, movies, TV, music, everything. Maybe Bruce asked for advice, asked how to navigate Hollywood, asked how to handle fame. A talent agent told people Bruce Lee was smart. He would have used that moment, picked Dean's brain, learned from someone who'd been at the top for decades. Theory 8. Dean asked Bruce to teach him martial arts. The reverse theory. Maybe Dean was impressed by Bruce's demonstration on the show. Maybe he wanted to learn. Maybe he asked Bruce to train him, to show him some moves, to give him private lessons. A gym owner in Burbank claimed, "I heard Dean Martin wanted to get in shape." Maybe he asked Bruce to be his trainer. Rich guys do that all the time. All wrong. Every single theory. Wrong. None of them came close to what actually happened. What was actually said? What actually changed Bruce Lee's life? The speculation continued for years. People asked. People theorized. People made up stories. Johnny Carson asked Dean about it the next time he was on the show, 2 months later, December 1968. During a commercial break, "Dinah, what did you and Bruce talk about that night?" Dean smiled, sipped his drink. "Philosophy." "Yeah." "Life, performance, the usual." "Come on, give me something." "That's all there is, Johnny, philosophy." Johnny didn't push. He knew Dean well enough to know when a door was closed. The conversation never made it on air. Bruce's students asked him constantly, "What happened that night with Dean Martin? What did you talk about? What did he say?" Bruce would smile, give vague answers. We discussed perspectives on performance. He shared some wisdom. It was a private conversation. Nobody got more than that. Nobody could crack it. Dan Inosanto, one of Bruce's closest students, asked in 1970. They were training, just the two of them. Dan brought it up casually. "That Tonight Show appearance with Dean Martin. Everyone's been asking me about it." Bruce kept training. What do they ask? "What you talked about after." In the green room. Bruce paused, just for a second, then continued. "Dean Martin taught me something that night." "What?" "That strength and fear aren't opposites." Dan waited for more. Bruce didn't elaborate. The subject was closed. Linda Lee, Bruce's wife, noticed something changed after that night. Bruce came home different. She was waiting up for him, 3:30 in the morning. He walked in quiet, thoughtful. She asked how it went. "Good. Just good. Different than I expected." "How?" Bruce sat down, looked at her. "Dean Martin isn't what people think he is." "What do you mean?" "He's not just cool. He's not just smooth. He's something else. Something most people don't see." Linda asked what they talked about. Bruce said it was private. But over the next few weeks, she noticed changes. Bruce was calmer, less driven to prove himself, more comfortable in his own skin. He'd always been confident, but this was different. This was peace. Frank Sinatra asked Dean about it in 1970. They were in Vegas, having drinks after a show. Frank brought it up. "That thing with Bruce Lee, 2 years ago. What was that about?" Dean swirled his drink. "He asked me a question." "What question?" "A good one. And I answered it." Frank waited, didn't continue. Frank tried again. "Come on, Dino. Everyone's been asking about it. The rumors are getting crazy." "Let them stay crazy." "Why?" "Because what happened in that room was between me and him. Nobody else." Frank respected that. Never asked. Deepened as the years passed. 1970, 1971, 1972, The Big Boss, Fist of Fury. Enter the Dragon. He became a global phenomenon, a martial arts icon, a philosophy unto himself. Reporters asked about Dean Martin, about that night, about the green room. Bruce stayed silent. In 1972, during a rare interview about philosophy, Bruce came close to mentioning it. The interviewer asked about his influences, about who shaped his thinking. Bruce listed several people: Ip Man, James Yim Lee, Taiki Kimura. Then he paused. "There was an entertainer who taught me something important." "Who?" "It doesn't matter who. What matters is what I learned." "Which was?" "That being yourself is harder than being what people expect. But it's the only way to be free." The interviewer moved on. Didn't catch the significance. Didn't realize Bruce was talking about Dean Martin, 1973, July 20th, 32 years old. Too young, too sudden, too tragic. The secret went with him. Whatever Dean had said in that green room stayed locked away. Linda Lee was asked about it years later, 1980, a biographer doing research. "Do you know what Dean Martin and Bruce talked about that night?" Linda thought about it. "Bruce never told me exactly. But I know it mattered. I know it changed something in him." "Change what?" "His relationship with pressure, with expectation. He was always driven, always pushing. After that night, he was still driven, but differently, less desperate, more grounded." Did he ever mention wanting to tell the story? He kept it private. He kept it private. That meant it was sacred to him. Dean Martin was asked periodically, 1970, 80, 1985, 1990. Always the same questions, always the same vague answers. A reporter in 1988, "Miss Esther Martin, it's been 20 years since that Tonight Show appearance with Bruce Lee. Can you tell us what you discussed backstage?" Dean smiled. "We talked about life." "Can you be more specific?" "Why could, but I won't." "Why not?" "Because Bruce kept it private when he was alive. I'm not going to make it public now that he's gone. That wouldn't be right. The reporter respected that. Most people did, but the curiosity never died. 1995, Dean Martin died. Christmas Day, the secret seemed permanently buried. Two legends, one conversation, forever unknown. Then 2015 happened. Robert Klein had been working at NBC for 12 years, audio technician specialized in archival restoration. The network was digitizing everything, old shows, old recordings, old tapes that were deteriorating, preserving television history. Klein was methodical, careful. He'd been working through 1968 for 3 months, January, February, March, show by show, episode by episode. He reached October, started working through late October episodes. Then he got to October 28th, the Dean Martin and Bruce Lee episode. He'd heard about this one. Everyone in television had heard about it. The mystery, the tension, the theories. He loaded the master tape, started the digitization, standard procedure. Then he noticed something odd. The tape had an extra audio track. Most Tonight Show recordings had 2 tracks. Main mix, audience backup. This one had 3. He isolated the third track, enhanced it. It was a backstage mic, a green room mic, standard NBC practice in 1968. They kept mics running in common areas, just in case, just for safety, in case something newsworthy happened, in case they needed audio. But these recordings were rarely kept, usually erased, reused. This one hadn't been erased. Klein played it. 3 minutes of audio. Voices? 2 men talking. He recognized them immediately. Dean Martin. Bruce Lee. Klein's hands started shaking. He knew what he'd found. He stopped the playback, called his supervisor. You need to hear this. The supervisor came down, listened. Eyes went wide. Holy shit, they verified it. Checked the timestamps. Checked the voice patterns. Ran it through analysis. Was legitimate. Renedated. They contacted NBC Legal. Started the process of deciding what to do with it. Release it. Keep it private. Who owned it? After 3 months of deliberation, NBC decided to release it. With Linda Lee's permission. With Dean Martin's estate's permission. Both families agreed. The world deserved to know. March 2015. NBC posted the audio online, released a statement. The internet exploded. Finally, after 47 years, the truth, the recording started mid-conversation. Dean and Bruce had already been talking. But the crucial part was there. The question, the answer, everything that mattered. Bruce's voice. Calm. Genuine. Curious. 7 words. How do you stay calm under pressure? A pause. 3 seconds. Dean's voice. Thoughtful. Honest. Unguarded. I don't stay calm, Bruce. That's the thing everyone gets wrong. I'm not calm. I'm terrified most of the time. Before every show. Before every movie. Before every moment when people are watching. My hands shake. My stomach turns. I get sweaty. I want to run. But here's what I figured out. Their expectations. What they think I should be. What they need me to be. What they want from me. That's their problem, not mine. The moment you start performing for their validation, you've already lost yourself. You're not Bruce Lee anymore. You're their idea of Bruce Lee. And you can never satisfy that. Never. Because their idea keeps changing. What worked yesterday won't work tomorrow. What makes them cheer tonight will bore them next week. You'll chase it forever and never catch it, so I stopped trying. I just show up as me. Flawed, scared, imperfect. But me? And if they don't like it, that's okay. Because at least I haven't lost myself trying to be what they needed. Silence. 10 seconds of it. Bruce processing, absorbing, understanding. Then Bruce's voice, quieter. You're saying the fear doesn't go away. No, it doesn't. Anyone who tells you they're not scared is either lying or they haven't done anything worth being scared about. Then what changes? You stop fighting it. Stop pretending it's not there. Stop thinking that real strength means never feeling afraid. Real strength is feeling it and doing it anyway. Not because you're brave. Because you decided it matters more than the fear. Another pause. Shorter this time. Ip Man told you something similar. He did. Took me another 9 years to actually understand it. To live it. I'm still working on it. Why tell me this? Because you asked, and because I see you trying to prove something out there, trying to show everyone what you're capable of. And you are capable. Anyone watching knows that, but you don't need to prove it. You just need to be it. Silence again, longer. Then Bruce, thank you. Don't thank me. Just don't lose yourself trying to satisfy people who'll never be satisfied. The recording ended there. 3 minutes. That was all. But it was everything. Now, you might think this was just two celebrities having a conversation after a TV show. 2 men, 1 green room, some words exchanged. Hollywood was full of moments like this. Advice given, wisdom shared, mentors helping rising stars. Nothing unusual, nothing special. But here's what makes this different. Dean Martin had spent 20 years building an image. The king of cool, the man who never broke a sweat, the guy who made everything look effortless, who walked on stage with a drink in his hand and a smile on his face and made it all seem easy. That was his brand, his persona. In 1965, he'd faced down a mob boss at the Sands without flinching. In 1956, he'd ended his partnership with Jerry Lewis and never said a bad word about him publicly. In 1963, he'd stood up to a director who wanted to cut corners on safety. Dean Martin's reputation was built on being unshakable, unbothered, cool. And Bruce Lee, he was building his own legend. The martial artist, the philosopher, the man who said, "Be like water." The warrior who never backed down, who moved with impossible speed and precision, who made martial arts look like poetry. What happened in that green room wasn't just a conversation. It was the moment when two different kinds of strength recognized each other. When the mask came off, when the performance stopped, when 2 men who spent their lives being what others expected got to be human for 3 minutes. And what Bruce asked, and what Dan answered, would echo through martial arts philosophy for decades. But nobody knew about it. Not yet. Not for 47 years. When the recording was released, the response was immediate. Massive martial arts instructors around the world listened to it, analyzed it, taught it. Listen to what Dean Martin told Bruce Lee. This is the essence of martial arts, not the techniques, not the moves, the mindset, being yourself under pressure. Film schools played it. This is what performance really is. Not pretending to be someone else. Being yourself in circumstances that aren't normal. Philosophy professors discussed it. The intersection of Eastern and Western thought. Bruce Lee seeking wisdom. Dean Martin offering authenticity. Linda Lee released a statement. This explains so much about how Bruce evolved after 1968. I always wondered what shifted. Now I know. Dean Martin gave him permission to stop proving and start being. But to understand why Dean's words hit Bruce so hard, you need to understand where Don came from, where that wisdom was born. Dean Martin wasn't born cool, wasn't born confident, wasn't born comfortable in his own skin. He was born Dino Crocetti in 1917. Steubenville, Ohio. Italian immigrant family, poor, struggling. Barely spoke English until he was 5. He was shy. Painfully stuttered when he got nervous. Got bullied for his accent, for his clothes, for being different. When he started singing, the stage fright was crippling. He'd stand in the wings, shaking, sweating, wanting to run. His first performances were disasters. He'd forget lyrics, miss cues, rush through songs. The audience could see his fear, could smell it, could feel it. It made them uncomfortable, made them not want to watch. He knew he had talent. People told him he could sing, but the fear was eating him alive, destroying his chances. He tried everything. Drinking before shows didn't help, just made him sloppy. Rehearsing more didn't help, just made him more aware of what could go wrong. Avoiding the audience's eyes didn't help, just made him seem disconnected. Then in 1943, he met a nightclub owner in Cleveland, guy named Jim who'd been in the business 30 years, seen 1,000 performers come and go. Jim watched Dean perform, saw the talent, saw the fear, called him over after the show. "Kid, you got a voice, but you're dying up there." "I know. I just get so nervous." "You think Sinatra doesn't get nervous. You think Crosby doesn't get nervous. Every performer gets nervous. Then how do they do it? They stop trying to be perfect. They just try to be present. You're up there trying to hit every note exactly right, trying to make every gesture perfect, trying to be what you think they want. You know what they actually want. What? You. The real you. Not some polished version, not some character, just you singing songs. That's it." Dean didn't understand. Not at first. But he started trying it. Started going on stage and just being himself. Not trying to impress. Not trying to be perfect. Just showing up at Beano. It took years. Didn't happen overnight. But slowly, gradually, the fear stayed, but the prison it created didn't. By 1946, he'd figured it out. The fear never went away. Before every show, he still felt it. Still got sweaty palms and racing heart. But he learned to carry it differently. Learned to acknowledge it and move forward anyway. When he met Jerry Lewis in 1946, Jerry saw something different. Not a performer trying to prove himself. A performer who'd made peace with imperfection. Their partnership exploded because Dean brought that energy. That authenticity. That willingness to fail in front of millions. Jerry was chaos. Dean was grounded chaos. They worked because Dean had learned the secret Jim told him: just be yourself. The partnership ended in 1956. Bitter. Public. People expected Dean to collapse, to attack Jerry, to defend himself. He didn't. He just kept being himself. Kept showing up. Kept performing. Didn't try to control the narrative. Didn't try to win public opinion. Just existed as himself and let people think whatever they wanted. And he survived. Thrived even. Solo career took off. Movies, music, television, everything. Because he wasn't performing Dean Martin anymore. He was just being Dean Martin. By 1968, when Bruce asked him that question, Dean had 25 years of experience with this. 25 years of feeling fear and doing it anyway. 25 years of being himself instead of what people expected. That's why his answer was so profound. It wasn't theory. It wasn't philosophy he'd read in a book. It was lived experience. Hard-won wisdom. Scar tissue. Bruce Lee's life after that conversation showed the impact. Before October 1968, Bruce was driven by a need to prove that martial arts were legitimate. Prove that Asian actors could be leading men. Prove that he belonged. Prove that he was the best. It made him incredible. Fierce. Unstoppable. But it also made him exhausted, tense, always fighting, always pushing, always needing to show everyone what he could do. After the green room conversation, something shifted. Subtle at first, his students noticed it before anyone else. Dan Inosanto in 1969, Bruce started teaching differently. Before, he'd demonstrate a technique and expect us to match it exactly. After late 1968, he started saying, find your own way with this. Don't try to copy me. Express yourself. Taiki Kimura in 1970, Bruce seemed more at peace, still intense, still driven, but the desperation was gone. He wasn't trying to prove Bruce Lee was the greatest martial artist anymore. He was just being Bruce Lee. The philosophy shift appeared in his teaching. His famous "be like water" speech came in 1971. 3 years after the Dean Martin conversation. Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless. Like water. You put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put water into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. That was Dean Martin's wisdom filtered through Bruce Lee's martial arts framework. Don't try to be what others expect. Be yourself in whatever circumstance you're in. Flow. Adapt. But stay true to your core. Bruce's movie roles changed too. When he finally got his starring roles in 1971, he played characters differently than he might have before. Not trying to prove anything, just being. Being powerful. Being confident. Being Bruce Lee. Enter the Dragon in 1973 showed a Bruce Lee at peace himself, still fierce, still powerful, but grounded, present, not performing strength, being strong. Critics noticed, audiences felt. This was different than other martial arts movies. This felt real, authentic, true. In a 1972 interview, Bruce almost told the story, almost revealed the conversation. The interviewer asked about dealing with pressure, with Hollywood racism, with being underestimated. Bruce paused, smiled slightly. Someone once told me that trying to meet other people's expectations is a prison, that the only freedom is being yourself and accepting that some people won't like it. Who told you that? Bruce considered, then decided against it. Someone wise. Someone who'd figured it out before I did. Can you tell us who? No. But I can tell you they were right. That was as close as he ever came to revealing it publicly. The recording's release in 2015 connected dots that people had been trying to connect for decades. Martial arts historians immediately saw the link. This explains the evolution of Jeet Kune Do, Bruce's martial arts philosophy. Before 1968, it was about being the best. After 1968, it became about being yourself. That's the core of Jeet Kune Do, not copying, not following rigid forms. Expressing yourself through martial arts. Dean Martin taught Bruce Lee the philosophical foundation of his life's work. A Bruce Lee biographer who'd spent years researching. We always knew something happened in 1968. Linda mentioned it, students mentioned it, but we never knew what. This recording explains everything. Dean Martin, of all people, gave Bruce Lee the final piece of his philosophical puzzle. Film students analyzed it from a performance angle. Two masters of their crafts, one teaching the other that mastery isn't perfection, it's authenticity. That's profound. That's revolutionary, especially for 1968. The families responded thoughtfully. Shannon Lee, Bruce's daughter. This recording shows my father's humanity, his willingness to learn, his openness to wisdom from unexpected sources. I'm grateful it was preserved. Grateful people can hear it. My father would want this shared. Deanna Martin, Den's daughter. My father rarely talked about deep things publicly. He kept his wisdom private, shared it in moments like this, one-on-one, human to human. This recording shows who he really was, not the persona. The person. The green room conversation lasted 20 minutes total. The recording only captured 3 minutes, the most important 3 minutes. What else was said? Nobody knows. Those 17 minutes are lost. But those 3 minutes changed everything. Changed how people understood Bruce Lee's philosophy. Changed how people viewed Dean Martin's depth. Changed how we think about strength and fear and authenticity. If you had been in that green room, what would you have asked? Would you have asked about fame? About pressure? About staying calm when everyone is watching? Or would you have stayed silent like most people do? Bruce asked, and because he asked, he received an answer that shaped the rest of his life. Even though that life was cut short 5 years later, those 5 years were different, more grounded, more authentic, more true. The recording ends with Bruce saying thank you. Dunn's response isn't fully captured. The mic cuts out slightly, but you can hear the tone, warm, connected. Two humans, two men, two legends, sharing truth in a green room at 3 a.m. when nobody was watching. The strongest people aren't the ones who never feel pressure. They're the ones who feel it, acknowledge it, and choose to show up anyway. Not as the person everyone expects them to be. As themselves. Bruce Lee learned that from Dean Martin in a green room in 1968. And if you value stories like this, stories about the moments that shaped legends when nobody was watching, there's an entire playlist waiting for you here.